For decades, the name Balochistan has been tangled up in a story of oppression, a story that our source material says has been largely ignored by the rest of the world. So today, we're going to dive into that narrative and take a look at a region the source calls the land of the disappeared. Take a look at these faces. These aren't just random protesters. They're mothers, fathers, sisters, and kids. And every single one of them is holding a photograph of a loved one who has just vanished, an enforced disappearance. These are the people at the very heart of the story we're unpacking today. I mean, this quote from our source really drives home the sheer scale of what we're talking about. It's not some isolated event. It's described as a constant, pervasive reality, just woven into the fabric of daily life in Balochistan, where this kind of loss is a shared experience for entire communities. So you have to be asking, how does something like this happen so systematically? Well, the source points to a specific legal and operational framework. It describes a whole system that actually enables these disappearances. According to the source, a key part of this is the Protection of Pakistan Act. It argues that this law essentially gives security forces a license to operate completely outside the normal justice system. The material we're looking at even calls it a form of legalized kidnapping. 90 days. According to the source, that's the formal period security forces can hold someone in custody without any charges. And during that time, no access to lawyers, no contact with family. It's just a black hole of information, leaving families in this agonizing, uncertain limbo. And the source material describes this chillingly methodical process. It labels the kill and dump policy. It reportedly starts with the abduction of key figures. And we're not just talking about rebels, but professors, students, doctors. The source alleges this is followed by torture, and it often ends with bodies being found in remote areas bearing the marks of that torture. And the source is very clear. These are not nameless, faceless victims. It highlights prominent figures, people like Nawab Akbar Bukti, a political leader killed back in 2006. Activists like Ghulam Muhammad Baloch and Karima Baloch, who died under suspicious circumstances, even after she left Pakistan for Canada. And Rashid Hussain, who was allegedly abducted from the UAE. So it's absolutely crucial to understand the why. What's the context for this conflict? The source connects these events directly to the economics of the region and these massive infrastructure projects that are underway. And that brings us to CPEC, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. Now, it's this huge, multi-billion-dollar project that promises development and progress. But the perspective in our source material is, well, it's starkly different. It frames CPEC as a modern form of colonialism, one designed to extract Balochistan's resources without actually benefiting its people. And this creates this huge paradox. On one hand, you've got the promise of progress, but on the other, the source details a totally different reality. Gas and minerals are flowing out of the region while locals lack basic utilities. Fishermen are reportedly being pushed out of their ancestral lands, and this heavy military presence turns villages into what feels like open-air prisons. But as we often see, oppression can spark incredible resistance. And the source material we're looking at highlights that the very nature of this resistance has gone through this profound change, leading to what it's calling a new revolution. Protesting the kill and dump policy, that's not new. You can see this banner is from a previous demonstration. This has been a central grievance for years and years, but what's changed is the scale, and more importantly, the people involved. Because today, the movement has just exploded in scale. And what's most significant, as our source points out, is who is leading it. The women of Balochistan have moved to the very forefront of this struggle. They're demanding accountability, face to face with the authorities. So what happened? What caused this shift? Well, the source argues that a traditional code of conduct, this idea that women and children were not to be dragged into conflict, was broken. It claims that authorities began targeting the mothers and sisters of male activists in a tactic it calls hostage management. And that tactic, unintentionally, ignited this powerful women-led revolution. And this new phase, it has its own leaders. Figures like Dr. Maharang Baloch have become these incredibly powerful voices. They're organizing peaceful but really defiant actions, like the Long March all the way to the capital, under the banner of groups like the Baloch Yakjeti Committee. But if all of this is happening, it just raises this massive, crucial question. Why don't we hear more about it? Well, the answer, according to the source, really boils down to controlling information. It states that international media is effectively banned from the region and that internet blackouts are common. That makes it incredibly difficult for these stories, for these images to reach the outside world. And yet, despite everything, the central message that comes through in the source is one of resilience. This quote just captures that perfectly. The idea that while physical land might be occupied, the will of a people for their rights, for their freedom, that can't be extinguished. And so that leaves us with this final question, one that's posed by the source material itself. In a world with 24-hour news cycles, where we're covering conflicts in places like Ukraine and Gaza, why does Balochistan remain in the shadows? It's a question about media, it's about geopolitics, and ultimately, it's a question that the source says is a test for our shared humanity.